Hello everyone, my name is Miss Kayla Forrest and I want to welcome you to English 105, section 01D for distance. So just a little bit about me. So this is me here. I'm a third-year PhD student studying 20th century American literature. I received an MA in American Literature at NC State University. I also studied English and French at NC State as an undergrad, and some random facts about me are that I've taught English in France for a year, and I really love college sports, and particularly basketball and football. This person over here is Ernest Hemingway, and he is my favorite author. So I want to take some time to go over the syllabus, which is on Canvas, and also sort of show you what Canvas looks like and what to expect with that. So this is our course syllabus. You can see there's some information here. So you have my email. We don't have office hours specifically, so you're welcome to contact me via email. My mailbox, should you need it, is MHRA3317. My email policy and policies for Canvas is I would encourage you to definitely check your email in Canvas daily or regularly. I personally try to check emails from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You're welcome to email me at any time. However, please do leave at least 24 hours for response. And I try to get back to you sooner if possible. In terms of thinking about our course, the official course description is critical reading and analysis of American and British novels, short stories, and narrative poems. Attention to historical, cultural, and literary backgrounds is appropriate. What we're going to be looking at, however, is thinking about the question of what a narrative is. What is a narrative? How do we define narrative? And that's a question that we're going to be exploring by looking at a novel, some poetry, short stories, essays, and other types of texts. We're also going to be thinking about ways to analyze and interpret literature, as well as terms and concepts that are going to help us to do those things. Because when we think about narrative and literature as a whole, it's quite a large scope. Our focus for the course will be otherness and the idea of how individuals, groups, and art forms are sort of categorized inside or outside of society and social norms. So this is the sort of broad topic we're going to be exploring. And we'll also be thinking about, as we examine the different narratives, ways that narratives show us different perspectives on and depictions of and messages about relationships between the sort of us and them groups. And we can define that very broadly, and in fact we will define that very broadly as we look at different texts across the semester. The student learning outcomes, the first is demonstrate orally in writing or by some other means a fundamental ability to use some of the techniques and or methods of literary analysis. The second is to identify and or describe some of the various social, historical, cultural, and or theoretical contexts in which literary texts have been written and interpreted. The materials that you'll need are lenses, and that's the 2015 version. The editors on that are Melissa Ridley Elms and Abigail Browning. You'll also have additional course readings in the form of PDFs, URLs, and an ebook, which we'll be accessing through our Canvas page and through the university library. So it's also important that you have access to a computer and not just a smartphone. Sometimes smartphones have trouble accessing everything that a computer accesses, so do make sure that you have access to a computer in some capacity. For coursework and evaluation of that coursework, so we have 6 different categories for our assignments, and they're broken down in terms of sort of weight here. So multimodal analysis assignment is 15%, interpretation essay is 15%, final exam is 25%, quizzes are 15%, discussion board participation is 15%, and close reading assignments are worth 15% as well. In terms of what those things are, I have short descriptions on the syllabus of each type of assignment. So the multimodal assignment, analysis assignment is an assignment where you'll be sort of focusing on one of the texts that you've read and create a multimodal, or in other words, alternative genre text, such as a graphic or comic depiction of a scene, design for a book cover, drawing of a scene, resume of a character, or other such sort of multimodal forms of interpretation. You'll also write a brief essay explaining how your choices indicate your literary analysis of the text, and there's a more detailed assignment sheet on Canvas for that. The interpretation essay is a sort of traditional interpretation essay, although it's a little bit shorter since we don't have as much time to work on such an essay. So 800 to 1,000 word essay where you'll be analyzing and interpreting one piece of literature that we've read throughout the semester. And your goal for this is really to develop an original argument about the text that you support with reasons and evidence from the text itself. You should also be using some of the literary terms and analytical concepts we've been using throughout the sort of course term. You will have a final exam, which you will take online, and there will be a certain time for that, time period for that, which you'll have as a part of the online exam taking process. Canvas sort of does that for us, which is helpful. So that will consist of identifications, multiple choice questions, short responses, and a short essay based on what we've discussed throughout the term. You also have weekly quizzes, which will be rather short in nature, so 10 questions each. And they'll cover the week's reading assignments, as well as your lenses readings, your readings that are assigned, the actual narrative text that you'll be reading, as well as assigned videos as well. So it will be important, since those quizzes cover the readings and videos throughout the week. You will not want to take a quiz until you've actually finished reading and watching the assigned material for the week. The quizzes will also be timed, so once you begin the quiz, you won't be able to restart it. So it will be important that you are able to take the quiz fully and sit down in a way that you won't be disrupted. In terms of discussion boards and participation with those, we will be having discussion boards on a weekly basis. And this is sort of the way that you participate and contribute to class participation in an online course. So it is important that we do these as a way to engage with each other's ideas and to hear how we're interpreting the text differently and our different thoughts and questions that we have about that and responses to the text. So you'll have 8 initial discussion board posts that you'll be doing, but you will also, as part of those assignments, be replying to at least 2 of your classmates' posts. So in order to get full credit for the assignment, you should post your own initial discussion board posts in response to the specific prompt for each discussion board, and then you should respond to at least 2 of your classmates. The only exception to that is the first discussion board post, where you'll be sort of introducing yourself and commenting on one of the texts that a couple of the texts that I've assigned. In terms of thinking about sort of discussion board etiquette, your original post should be between 200 and 300 words. It's important that if you include citations, if you're quoting or paraphrasing a text, that you include in-text citations for that. And if you need help with citations, this link will allow you to glean a little bit more information about that for Emily in-text citations. In terms of the sort of content and tone as well, it's important that your responses be thoughtful, that you're adding something new to the conversation. And when you're thinking about responding to your peers, agreement, disagreement, adding additional information, or support for an idea that is being discussed by your peer, those are all valid ways to respond. Other ways are offering interesting questions or perhaps other ideas that you think your peer might be interested in considering based on their response. It is important, however, with your peer responses to go beyond simple, I agree with this idea, or I disagree with this idea. If you agree with an idea, explain to us why, what it is specifically that you agree with, and vice versa for disagreement. It's also important that we respect each other and maintain courtesy in our responses. So any sort of malicious or hate speech will not be tolerated. And I expect that everyone will respond to each other in ways that are kind and appropriate for the context. Finally, you'll have close reading assignments. There'll be 2 of those. And for this, I'll give you certain passages that you can choose from. And you'll be examining the sort of specific language of that portion of the text and using that language in that section of the text to develop an analysis of what the larger significance is. So you'll use the literary terminology that we've discussed throughout the course. And you want to show how the text supports your understanding of the passage's significance. And there's likewise a detailed assignment sheet on Canvas. Our course grading scale follows the sort of university grading scale, which you can review. Online coursework expectations and guidelines is something that's important. So this is an online web class, but it's not a proceed at your own pace class. So this means that you'll have deadlines. You'll be working with your classmates via the discussion posts, and the course will operate on a weekly basis. So you must have a computer in order to be able to access the internet, and it needs to be something that you is a reliable computer. Yeah. So aside from the first week, which will start on the first day of class, and the last week, which will end a little bit earlier, since the course ends on the 12th and our final exam is on the 13th of June. Other than that, the weekly modules will be released at 12 a.m. on Sundays. And all assignments are due by the Saturday of each week at 11:59 p.m. Those assignment deadlines are also marked on the course schedule below and on Canvas. So because so much of what we do is on Canvas and it's communicated to you via the Canvas messaging and also the UNCG emails, it's really important that you check both of those regularly to make sure that you are aware of what's going on with class and aware of your assignments and any announcements that I have to give you as well. If you have any sort of extenuating circumstances, if something should happen, like a chronic illness or injury, some sort of medical issue or a death in the family and so forth, please let me know as soon as possible so that I can help you with that. I'm not opposed to giving extensions, but I need to make sure that we communicate about that if that's going to happen. You should also contact the Dean of Students office because they can help you and sort of advocate for you on your behalf, particularly if something is a really dire situation in which you're hospitalized or there's some sort of extreme distress that you're dealing with. We've covered using Canvas and email. It is important that you regularly check Canvas and email and that you are just maintaining that line of communication. For assignment submission, all assignments are submitted electronically to Canvas, and I'll give you feedback through Canvas as well. So you should not email assignments to me unless there's some issue with Canvas where Canvas is not working properly. Email communication is the way that I'll be communicating with you the majority of the time. However, if you would like to have some sort of conversation or a conference with me, we'll need to set up a phone call because those sorts of things are better done via Skype or some sort of phone call rather than just an email line of communication. So I'm happy to do that as well, and I can communicate with you about that if that's something you're interested in. For the readings, I do expect that you're reading the texts that are assigned and taking notes on those things. I also expect that you're taking your own specific notes on things that you notice, and that will help you then to engage with the assignments and to develop discussion board posts, to develop different parts of your assignments and so forth. So your notes don't have to be anything extensive, but it is important that you maintain that thinking about how you can contribute to our class discussions and just understanding the text itself. For late and incomplete assignments and sort of grading at large, so the discussions, quizzes, and close reading assignments are all worth 10 points each. The interpretation, essay, final exam, and multimodal assignments are worth 100 points each, and I will give you feedback for those via Canvas. You're welcome to turn work in early on the week that it is assigned. However, late work will not be accepted. If you turn in something that's incomplete, you'll receive partial credit for it. And unless you have some sort of extenuating circumstance, those are the sort of guidelines that you should follow and the expectations you should have. But if you do have extenuating circumstances, please do let me know, and we can figure out if it's possible for you to have an extension. Like we mentioned earlier, respect is really important, particularly when we're exploring ideas that are often personal to us, which sometimes looking at narratives, we are exploring ideas that are personal or that evoke different sorts of perspectives. So it's important that we respect each other, and any sort of hate speech or any behavior that is purposefully malicious or belittling will not be tolerated. It's my expectation that you will all respect one another and be kind to one another. But in the case where that is not the case, the behavior policy for the university comes into play. So disruptive behavior is sort of defined by the university, and they define it as behavior which UNCG regards as speech or action which is disrespectful, offensive, and or threatening, impedes or interferes with the learning activities of their students, impedes the delivery of university services, and or has a negative impact in the learning environment. Disruptive behavior includes physically, verbally, or psychologically harassing, threatening, or acting abusively toward an instructor, staff member, toward other students in any activity authorized by the university. Disruptive behavior also includes any other behavior covered by the Student Conduct Code. And these are things that I take seriously and will not tolerate. Student privacy, so this is something that's important because we're in an online course. Students will be required to disclose personally identifiable information, such as names and emails, that other sorts of ways of contacting people and so forth. Don't worry, I'm not going to be asking for any of your social media or anything like that. Because we are in an online course, things that are posted online, including names and contact information, should remain within the space of our Canvas page and not be shared outside of that. This is a form of respect and respecting each other's ideas and also respecting our privacy. So anything that is posted within Canvas should remain that way. So mostly this applies to discussion boards and so forth, but it is important to say that nothing should go from our Canvas page out into the sort of outside world. Academic integrity. So this is something that you've probably been over a number of times, but it is important, so I want to go over it again. Every student is required to abide by the academic integrity policy. So plagiarism is a violation of that policy, and this is something that won't be tolerated. So I do expect students to review the guidelines and the list of violations that are listed on the academic integrity website for UNCG and to abide by that policy. So violations are not just limited to plagiarism, but plagiarism is something that is often one of the issues for academic integrity. So a person commits plagiarism when he or she represents someone else's words or ideas as his or her own. So in writing your papers, you must take care to avoid plagiarizing the words or ideas of others. When you're using sources such as books, web pages, articles, primary documents in your writing, you must identify them to your reader. So if you quote a source directly, you must put the borrowed material in quotation marks, include a proper citation. If you take an idea from another source but put it in your own words, so you're paraphrasing it, you must give proper credit to that source. Please use MLA-style documentation to document any sources used in written work, unless I've asked you to use another documentation style, which I won't. MLA is what I'll be expecting you to use. Be scrupulous about documenting, quoting, and citing your sources even in first drafts. A draft that has been read by your instructor, classmates, has not been checked and given the okay. It is always your responsibility to make sure you understand and have successfully followed rules of citation and documentation in all your writing. So all suspected violations of the academic integrity policy are reported to the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities. Ooh, goodness, sorry about that. In this course, a single violation will result in a 0 on the assignment or the exam, and then a second violation results in failure of the course. And I would say if you have questions about that, please do contact me, because I'd be happy to talk to you about that and help you if you are concerned about plagiarism or any violations of the academic integrity policy. Useful resources. So the Office of Accessibility Resources and Services is available to students. So if you are a student that has documentation of special needs or someone who thinks that you might need documentation for needs that you have, I would encourage you to go to the Office of Accessibility Resources and Services. And if you have seen them and you have accommodations, please do contact me about those as soon as possible. Typically, ORS will send me an email about students, and that's the way that I will understand that there are accommodations. The Counseling Center is also something that I would encourage you to consider if you're overwhelmed by school. It's a place that's really helpful for students and can also be really helpful just to talk to another person about what's going on in your life, even outside of school. Other sorts of resources on campus that we have are the University Writing Center, and they do online meetings, so you can meet with them virtually. You don't actually have to go in to speak to them. The University Speaking Center, which is an MHRA on campus, the Digital Act Studio, and the Digital Media Commons, which are both housed in the library, Jackson Library, in the bottom floor in the basement. So now we're moving to our schedule. So this is the schedule as is, posted for the beginning of the semester. I don't anticipate that the schedule will change. However, if there are extenuating circumstances or if there are any sort of changes, I will post updates to Canvas. So I would encourage you to check the Canvas schedule regularly. All readings from Lenses will have the term Lenses next to them, and then other readings that can be found on Canvas will be PDFs or URL links. And those will be labeled either Canvas if they're PDFs that are loaded to Canvas, or URL links if they're actually linked outside to a website. So I'd encourage you to look through the calendar. Basically, the way that things are set up, we have different weeks and sort of themes for those weeks and the dates that are specified for those weeks. So I will have the videos I'd like you to watch, as well as what I'd like you to read, and then what I'd like you to complete. And those are sort of color-coded, so that's hopefully clear. If you have questions about those things, please feel free to contact me. Sometimes Canvas can do funny things, or you might just have a question about something, some assignment, or it might not be showing up for you or something of that nature. So just let me know if that's the case, and I can look into that. So our general sort of titles or sections, we have week 1 is just the intro and thinking about what a narrative is and how we define that. Week 2 is short fiction. Week 3 is novellas. Week 4 is long narrative. Week 5 is poetic narratives, and week 6 is nonfiction, and then our final exam, which will take place on the 13th, which is the final exam day for the first spring semester, or summer semester, excuse me. And your final exam will be online, as I mentioned earlier. Final grades will be posted by June 15th as well. So that's all that I have for you at this point in time. I do want to show you our Canvas page just so you have an idea of how it looks. So you have the sort of modules for the week that'll show up in there, set to open at specific periods of time. So basically midnight on the Sunday that starts the week. So this is where you can find your information. Generally, there will be a page that's listed for each week as well that sort of lists the information from the syllabus, and that will be where you can also find URL links out to different websites for things if I'm asking you to read something on a website. Your assignments are listed here, and they're also sort of categorized by what they are. So you can see that. If we go to pages right now, it'll take you to a home page. So this is just sort of information about our course. It's also on the syllabus. Yeah, and so all your assignments will be submitted through Canvas. So this is something that you want to sort of explore a little bit to sort of see how things are set up. Typically, there's a sort of way that you can see your assignments, either upcoming assignments or show them by type, and then it sort of also shows you the categorization of things as well. So that's all that I have for you right now. I'm asking you to complete an introduction discussion post and introduction quiz. So please do submit those things after you've gone through and read the rest of the assignments that are listed on our week 1 module, and after you've watched the video on Intro to Narrative as well. Thank you.